Southeast Ohio at the Habitat Oasis, and it's a hot and humid July day. I'm actually trying to squeeze this video in before the rain starts. If you're not familiar with our channel, we are in Southeast Ohio. We have 175 acres and 2 cabins. On that property, we've got our Habitat Oasis project that we're working on, which is a conservation project to convert property that was strip mined back in the 70s and is now covered in invasive species. We're going to convert that back into native habitat. On that property, we hunt, we fish, we trap. We have a wood miser sawmill that we run. We've got 3 John Deere tractors. We've got the 1025R, the 2032R, and the 4052R. So if you're looking for perspective on what size tractor you need, we've got 3 of them of different sizes, and we can certainly talk to that topic. We also have 2 Polaris. We've got a pond that's almost 4 acres that we manage and keep looking pretty good. And, you know, we just spend all of our time outdoors. Our motto is outdoors is always in season, so year-round we're finding something to do here on the property. So for today's video, what I want to do is talk about things you need to talk to your dealer about and have him demonstrate for you. If you've seen our videos, we tend to talk a lot about, you know, how to get your best deal from the dealer, things to think about while you're buying, such as what size attachments, what size tractor, you know, what attachments in general. And one of the things that I see people ask a lot about, they get stuck on the details of the tractor once they own it. What we found is we did a survey, and I'll post it up here, that we asked, you know, how many people is this your first tractor? The John Deere compact utility tractor. How many of you is that your first tractor? And 46% said that they had little tractor experience. This was their first tractor, and they had little or no tractor experience. So this is a whole new machine for a lot of people. When you go in to buy, that is the opportunity you have to ask questions, because you have the salesperson's attention. They're going to be completely focused on you, trying to answer all your questions so that you leave there with a tractor. Now, part of what they do, they're trying to sell easy. And this isn't just tractor salesmen. This is, you know, everybody wants to make your problems go away. They want to talk about everything being easy. It's simple. Nothing to it. We're going to fix your issues. And the sales guy, his goal is to gloss over things at as high a level as he can so that he doesn't create any concerns for you. So when it comes to this tractor, it's easy to get excited. Trust me, I was excited when I bought this, and I didn't do any of these things that I'm about to tell you. I asked to see them, but I didn't ask for them to the extent I'm going to tell you to do it. What I'm suggesting for you, I'm going to cover 5 things. I'm going to talk about the MidMount Mower. I'm going to talk about the front end loader. I'm going to talk about the backhoe, I'm going to talk about the PTO, and I'm going to talk about basic maintenance. And those are topics that you need to ask your salesperson to demonstrate for you. And when I say demonstrate, here's what I got. You know, how do I unhook the front end loader? Well, you got 4 hoses here, you're just going to pull these back and they come right off. Well, that's half right. They come right off. But what happens when they don't come off easy? What happens when there's pressure in that hose and you can't get it to reconnect? What about the stand? You know, there's all kinds of issues. He just wants to tell you. You want to see him take it off and put it back on. So let's dive into those 5 topics. I'm going to hit each one of them, spend a few minutes on them, and tell you where the gotchas are that you want the dealer to show you so you don't get home and get stuck with them. First up is the MidMount Mower. The MidMount Mower is sold as being incredibly simple. Drive on, drive off, auto connect. If you watch the John Deere commercial, they don't even get off the tractor. They drive on, they pick it up, and they drive off. That's not how it works. Now, Josh has an old Massey Ferguson that is not a auto connect, and I'm not even sure it's a drive on, drive off. And I can tell you, you got to wrestle that thing to get it under the tractor and get it in place. So auto connect and drive on, drive off, they are a huge improvement over where things used to be, but they're not quite as advertised. So one of the frustrating things about the MidMount Mower is you're up here in the driver's seat, so you can't see what's going on underneath. So when things go wrong, you don't know why. And all you can do is get off the tractor, look underneath, and try to figure out what's happening. And the thing that most people run into when they have problems is they get on and they start trying to connect, and the mower is getting pushed around underneath them. The PTO is not auto connecting. The alignment is off. What you want to do is ask that dealer, show me how to put that mid-mount mower on and off. Don't talk me through it. Demonstrate it. I want to see it. And once you've seen it, ask if you can do it. Ask him, what if it doesn't connect properly? And he's probably going to tell you, we've got it all set up and that's not going to be an issue. Ask him where the adjustments are. The mid-mount mower can absolutely give you fits when it's not working right. When it's working great, when it's working well, it's awesome, trust me. And I see lots of people say, I've never had an issue with it. I've had issues here and there. Part of the reason I think I have issues is I've taken the mid-mount mower off. I'll have it off for an extended period of time. I'm working back in the fields. I'm driving through mud holes. Things get bumped around, and that's where you can run into issues. So anyway, mid-mount mower, make sure they demonstrate it for you to your satisfaction. Second item, front end loader. This is actually a really easy attachment to take on and off, and there's not much to it. And they're going to try to show you that it's very simple and just explain it to you. What you want them to do, let's take it off, let's put it on, and give me the chance to do the same. So basically there's 4 hoses down here that have to be disconnected. I'm not going to go through the details of how to do it. Have them show you how those hoses come off, and ask them what to do if those hoses have pressure on them and you can't reconnect them, because that can be really frustrating. The other thing, get them to give you a quick demonstration of how to remove the bucket and put a new attachment on. Super easy, but as long as you're there and they're working for your business, have them demonstrate it. Get a good feel for what it looks like when it sits on its on the stand. So it's an easy attachment to put on and off. It's probably one that I've had the least problems with, but get them to show it to you. It's worth a 10-minute demo, and something that as a new tractor owner, you don't want to go home and struggle with. Third item, backhoe. You can see I obviously do not have the backhoe installed. Actually, I don't even own the backhoe, but Josh does have it for the 2032R. And what we found with that was each time we wanted to take it off and put it on, we were using an app that I'm not even sure still exists. So we would go through that app step by step to see how to do that backhoe. And you know, it's rather involved. It's not, I mean, not difficult. There's just certain steps you have to do, and you have to do them in a certain order. So get them to demonstrate that. You want to understand, you know, every aspect of it. What should this thing look like when I take it off? What happens if I have hydraulic leak down and my backhoe is not sitting the way I expect it to be when I come back to get it? If you let it sit for months in the barn, there's a good chance that it's not going to be in the exact same position it was in when you set it up, when you left it. So get a good understanding for how to do that backhoe. It's got a couple hoses. You have the same issues with those hydraulic hoses that you have with the front. Sometimes you get so much pressure in them build up that you can't get them to reconnect. So ask them, what does it take to connect the backhoe and disconnect the backhoe? Walk through it, get a good demonstration of it. So those are things that I highly recommend that backhoe, because it can be frustrating. All right, let's talk PTO. For most people, the 1025R is the first tractor they own that has a PTO. This one has the mid-mount PTO as well as the rear PTO. And it looks very simple. You slide the attachment on, it clicks, there's a collar that you pull back. But we got home, and let me tell you, 3-point attachments gave us absolute fits. It was our first tractor. We did not know what we were doing. We didn't know the little tricks to make it go better, so we struggled with it. And even today, you know, you get a big heavy attachment. If you're not lined up correctly, you've got to get the tractor lined up, because that attachment's too heavy for you to muscle it around. So one of the things I see people comment on all the time, they can't reach the PTO. They don't realize that this cover opens up and they have easy access to it. If the dealer had demonstrated a connection, they probably would have seen that. So that's just one of those things that the dealer could show you. I just showed you, but you never know. What else does a dealer have that's a tip or a trick? I did find that the guy who sold me mine, he did some farming, so he had a lot of good tricks from being a long-time farmer. So talk to him about how to hook it up, safety around it, as well as maintenance of it. You know, should you be greasing it? I've seen people talk about grease. I've seen people talk about spraying it with WD-40. properly maintaining that spindle on the PTO will make things connect and disconnect much easier. So get a good sense for what's necessary to connect and disconnect on that PTO. Have them demonstrate it. Okay, last item for today. This is maintenance, basic maintenance. In your manual, and I will be the first to admit, I did not read my manual right up front. I've still not read it cover to cover. I use it as a reference guide as opposed to something that I read right up front. And I'm the same way with electronics. Pretty much everything in my house. Manuals, to me, are meant as reference guides, not as mandatory reading. If you look in it, one of the things that you will find is there are a list of daily operator checks. So before you operate the tractor, there's a list of things they want you to check. And that might seem odd as a as a homeowner. But the reality is, for people who work with heavy equipment, for tractor trailer drivers, people that depend on their equipment for their livelihood, this is just part of what they do. OSHA actually requires it. I spent a couple years doing forklift safety training, and OSHA actually requires that before every shift, so if you run 3 shifts a day, 3 times a day, that forklift gets inspected by the operator. It's that operator's job to check and make sure everything about that piece of equipment is safe to use and everything is being properly maintained. It's the same way with your tractor. And it's things that, if you use your tractor every day for a couple hours and you miss a day, probably not the end of the world. But if you don't check it ever, how will you know that you're low on fluids? How will you know that you've got some grass and weed buildup somewhere? I'm about to get rained on here, so I'm going to wrap this up. Have them show you how to do a daily check. Have them show you all the grease points so that you know how to properly grease and lubricate this machine. A lot of people have never had something that requires grease. So get them to show you where are all the grease zerks and how much grease do you put in each spot. So those are my tips. There's going to be a lot of things on here that you're not familiar with if you're one of those first-time tractor owners like I talked about at the beginning. So you've got your dealer's attention. You've got the salesman's attention, I should say, as opposed to the dealer. You got the salesman's attention. He wants to make a sale. Have him work as he makes that sale so that you leave there with a tractor you understand, and you'll have a much lower frustration level when you get home. I hope that was helpful. If I missed anything, ask some questions. If I misstated anything, you think I could have said something different, throw us a comment. I'm always interested in learning from people that have more experience than I do.